Hi, this is John Beatty, and you're listening to the Captain America Comic Book Fans.
Well, greetings, Cap fans, and welcome to episode 199 of the Captain America Comic Book Fans podcast. I'm Rick Verbanis, and I am your host for this special episode. And I've got a co-host. His name is Bob Lucius. Oh, Bob. He's not pining. He's passed on. This parrot is no more. He has ceased to be. He's expired and gone to meet his maker. He's a stiff. Bereft of life, he rests in peace. If you hadn't nailed him to the perch, he'd be pushing up the daisies. His metabolic processes are now history. He's off the twig. He's kicked the bucket. He's shuffled off his mortal coil, run down the curtain and joined the bleeding choir invisible. This is an ex-parrot.
All right. Well, I got the Monty Python bit. Great job with that, by the way. All right. But what's the connection, Rick?
Well, the follow-up line to that is the guy behind the counter says, well, I'd better replace him then. Sorry, Squire. I've had a look around the back of the shop and we're right out of parrots. I see. I get the picture. I got a slug. And so, Bob.
All right.
That brings it to today's episode.
It does. It does indeed. You managed to connect it.
Yes. What are we covering today, Bob?
We are covering Captain America number 325, Rick.
Indeed. And what's special about this issue?
Well, I think it's super special because it is the first appearance of the Slug.
Indeed, it is. I know you're a Monty Python fan,
Of course,
Bob.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite Python sketch?
Oh my gosh! For me, it's. Does it count if it's from one of the movies?
You could pick a scene. Sure, that's fine.
Yeah, I like the Life of Brian stoning scene.
Oh yes, where the men are dressed as women pretending to be men.
Yes, that's the one. Yeah. Yes, yeah, I like that. Yeah, and they all run up at the end with the big stone. Yeah.
All right, who threw that? Who that? She did. I mean, he did. Who did?
Yeah.
A funny thing about that. So back in the 80s when I was in high school, and I was at an all-boy Catholic high school. And I was in a freshman year, and I was taking a Old Testament class taught by a priest, Catholic priest.
Sure.
He wheels out the projector to show a movie, and he shows that clip. Now,
really?
mind you, this film was banned by many churches.
Yeah.
Because they felt it to be insulting, and sacrilege.
Yeah.
This priest had a great sense of humor.
Good for him.
And he was like, here's the irony. Because women weren't allowed there.
Yeah.
During a stoning, they didn't have rights. They didn't have, a voice and all this stuff. And he explained everything. He says, this is why it's funny.
Yeah.
And the guy's like, Jehovah, Jehovah, Jehovah.
It's a good movie. It gets. I like that one. I can see that one over and over again and see something new every time.
Yeah. I'm going to go with Quest for the Holy Grail as far as favorite movie.
Yep.
That's a annual tradition with my kids. They love that movie.
Yeah.
But my favorite Monty Python sketch has to be The Argument.
Yeah.
The Argument Clinic.
Yeah. Oh, The Argument Clinic.
Yeah. You know that one?
I think I've heard that one. Yeah.
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 It's just a great play on words, and it's really smart. It's just well crafted, witty, just really smart. Anyway, so welcome listeners to the episode. Bob, how you doing?
I'm doing okay, Rick. Yeah, just keeping busy. same as always.
Mhm.
And how about yourself?
Very, very busy. In fact, just to fill the listeners in, you down in Florida were dealing with a storm,
Hmm.
and me here in New Jersey was dealing with a storm at the same time.
Yeah, not the same storm.
My power went out,
Yeah.
and then caused this air conditioner unit that I have down here on the wall to reset, and it was doing a very loud just like
Yeah.
really, really loud. And it is literally, I'm touching it. That's how close this unit is. So, yeah, thank you, Bob, for your patience as I tried to get that fixed. And, because that would have been no fun for the listeners, dealing with that while I was recording.
Yeah, I wouldn't know, blood coming from your eyes and ears and things like
Yeah.
that. So that nobody wants to see that. So
No,
yeah.
that's all right. Um, all right, Bob, you know what? Before we get into today's comic, I do want to talk about next episode because
Mhm.
it's episode 200, Bob.
Yeah,
How crazy is that?
that's pretty amazing, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Here are
that's a
these
lot.
two old guys rapping about Cap. Who would have thought that there would be people who'd want to hear this, let alone for 200 weeks in a row?
Right. Yeah, and all the folks who have chosen voluntarily without any blackmail or other sort of financial persuasion to participate in the show.
That's true.
Yeah.
In fact, next episode, we are going to have the most participants we've ever had
Mhm.
in one episode, where we are going to be doing our first ever Captain America comic book fans community theater.
Right.
And we put this out there to our patrons. We put this out there to our Facebook group, and we got a bunch of people who sent in audio clips to audition for various parts. And we're going to be covering Captain America 400 and 401,
Hmm.
which is the Galactic Storm ending and epilogue. And it's a little bit of a crisis Cap has about his role with the Avengers. And there is a huge cast of Avengers, in these two issues, as well as a side story with Crossbones and Diamondback, and we've got a full
Oh,
cast of
we sure
people.
do. Yeah.
Yeah, including a really great director in Michael Udlick, who is volunteering to herd these cats and get us all together to, and the rehearsal's been fun.
Yeah, it really was to see that many people. I've never been and when it was done all over Zoom. So anytime there's 16 people on Zoom, usually half the people don't have pants on, the other half are they don't have the camera on because they're doing something else or they're taking a nap. But
Mhm.
these were like everybody was fully engaged and really into the process.
We still don't know if they were fully clothed.
Well, we don't know that. Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
you
You
know,
don't know if I am. Yeah,
the other special thing was is my son Hayden,
yeah.
who is a uh, working actor he's been on tour in a musical as the lead. He is playing the role of Clint Barton, aka
Hmm.
Hawkeye,
Yeah,
and we have a couple scenes together, and
yeah.
that's really special for me.
That should be. Yeah, that was really neat to see the two of you playing those scenes together in the rehearsals. So
Yeah,
I look forward to seeing the real deal come the
me too.
next time.
I got a little funny behind the scenes story for that though.
Hmm.
The director Michael, he sent out a note to the cast saying, we're going to be for this rehearsal. Everybody wear their best Captain America T-shirt. And so Hayden sees the email, and half an hour before the rehearsal, he comes to me. He goes, "Hey, Dad, do you have a Captain America T-shirt?" and and I was like,
Hmm.
I might have a couple, yeah. He goes, yeah. He says, I saw the and he knew as soon as he asked that. He was a dumb question, but he said, "Yeah, I saw that the director had it suggested we all wear our best Captain America t-shirts, and
Yeah.
I uh, I didn't want to be the only loser without a Captain America shirt on."
Uh-huh.
And I was like, Hayden, that must be the first time that sentence has ever been uttered in the history of this world.
That's so true.
uh,
The cool kids finally rule.
exactly. All right, should we get to today's issue?
Yep, let's dive in.
All right. So, this, as you had said before, is Captain America 325, and it has a cover date of January 1987. But the release date was actually the end of September in 1986. So, this would have been on the comic stands in the late at the end of the year in 1986. The creators for this one. Now, Mark Gruenwald has been on the book for about 3 years now, and as the writer, and the penciler is Paul Neary. However, um, I'm not going to say he was the penciler. I'm going to say he did the layouts, and then the inker is John Beatty, which I'm not going to say he's the inker. He's the finisher. In fact, when you open up the comic, and I'll get my copy right now. When you open up the comic, it's going to say in the inside artists, and it says Neary and Beatty. Oddly enough, if you go on to marvelfandom.com, it says the inker is Dennis Jonke, but it's not the case, and I can totally see this as Beatty's work. Yeah, it says Neary and Beatty. Now, when we had John Beatty on the show, he basically, when we talked to him about what was the difference between inking Mike Zeck and inking Paul Neary, and he goes, "Well, I didn't ink Paul Neary. I finished Paul Neary. He just basically did light layouts, and then the art ended up being mine." So it was a really good conversation with John Beatty. If you want to check that out, episode 43, which was a few years ago.
A long time ago. Holy cow.
And then the other people involved with this particular issue, colorist is Ken Fendunowicz, letterer Diana Albers, editor Don Daly. In fact, keep that name in mind for this particular issue. Editor Jim Shooter. Do you want to hear the solicitation, Bob?
You know I do, Rick.
Captain America's former sidekick, Nomad, returns. And Captain America is faced with one of the most difficult decisions of his career when he learns Nomad is out to kill Miami's biggest drug dealer, the Slug. And Bob, why don't you describe the cover and in turn let the listeners know who the Slug is?
Yeah, well, happy to do it, Rick. So, the cover is really striking. I love the background color, which is sort of a banana yellow. So it just provides some
Banana.
banana, some phenomenal contrast to the characters we see in the foreground, and there's three of them. Rick, there's the Slug, who is a very large, almost Jabba the Hutt like character.
Yeah.
With just rolls and rolls and rolls, and interestingly, he's sporting a tuxedo here. But he has very short arms, very very stubby arms, and he's laying on his back, prone on the ground, and laying into him is none other than Jack Monroe, Nomad.
Can I interject for real quick?
Yeah.
Speaking of Monty Python,
Mm-hmm.
did you ever see the movie The Meaning of Life?
I believe I have.
So it's a bunch of different skits.
Yes.
Well, there's one where there's this really, really fat man walking into a restaurant who's also, I think, wearing a tuxedo or at least a suit.
He's wearing a suit, yeah.
And he's just waddling in. He's just big, big man.
Get me the bucket.
Do you want a mint? It's a waffle
It's a
thin.
waffle thin. Yeah, I hesitated saying that was my favorite skit just because it's so disgusting.
It's so disgusting. It is so disgusting. But anyway, the slug reminds me of him, but bigger.
Yes, but bigger. Yes, right. Yeah, indeed. So in any case, we see Jack Monroe really straddling him here, and he is just connected with a left cross to the slug's face. And Cap is behind him, and Cap is desperately trying to pull Nomad off the slug. And he's yelling at Nomad. He's saying, "Stop it, Nomad! You're killing him." And Jack replies, "That's the idea, Cap." So we are in the middle of a major league smackdown, and Cap is trying to prevent Nomad from ending this man's life.
Yeah, and it's a great cover by Mike Zeck and John Beatty. And I think all of us comic fans, especially when we're young and first starting out reading comics, experience that, oh, I love the art on this cover. And then you open it up and it's a different artist. And they pull the whole kind of bait and switch.
Yeah.
And I kind of felt like Marvel was doing that to us because Mike Zeck had a really great 3-year run on Captain America. Then he left and he did Secret Wars and he did the Punisher miniseries. And then he came back and he did just covers
Mhm.
for Captain America. And you're like, Mike Zeck's back on the book. No, and no
No, yeah.
offense to Paul Neary, who was, I think, the interior artist during that time, but
Mhm.
I always loved Mike Zeck, as you
Yeah.
know, and
Sure.
but this is a cool dynamic cover by Zeck.
Yeah. And the facial expressions are really what sell it. Not necessarily on the slug because he's got a very slug-like facial expression, but certainly on Cap and Nomad, the facial expressions really betray what they're feeling in this instance. Jack is enraged, and Cap is kind of shocked really at Nomad's behavior here. So that really comes through in the facial expressions.
Indeed. And you can also tell Mike Zeck by the face. Like it's a dead giveaway. The way he does the jaw, the way he does the lips, the way he does the grimace,
Right. Yeah.
it's a dead giveaway. Love the art. Um, okay. Uh, Pulling out my copy. Got to get the readers on. All right, so we open it up and it is a full page splash, which immediately gets your attention because you're looking at it from behind Captain America as he's in an alleyway, in a dark alleyway, and he's running towards a group of individuals who are firing at him, and he has his shield up and he's deflecting it, and they look like they have business suits on and briefcase, look like businessmen, but what kind of business are they dealing in? And the title to this particular issue, Bob, is
Slugfest.
back during World War II, the big one, as old timers call it. I was given the super soldier serum, a chemical compound that enhanced all of my natural abilities to the peak of human potential. Through long months of arduous training, I forged that potential on the anvil of determination, turning myself into what some say is the finest human fighting machine the world's ever seen. I became a soldier back then, and I've been fighting almost ever since. The enemy's changed over the years. He used to wear a gray uniform and jack boots. It used to be easy to recognize. Now the enemy has many faces, many garbs. My job is not as easy as it once was. I constantly have to make judgments about what I see. Still, the nature of evil remains the same. There are those who would victimize others, rob them of their property, their human rights, their health, their very lives. I've made it my mission to stand up to that evil in any of the forms, to protect the less fortunate from its foul embrace. It's an endless, sometimes thankless task, but somebody's got to do it. That somebody is me. I call myself Captain America. We turn the page, and the guys are firing, and some of them are running away, and some aren't doing anything. Take him down, Julio. We're looking at 10 to 15 in the joint. Ah, shoot. And they're firing, Bob. And it's Ricochet. The sound of bullets zinging against my impenetrable shield is music to my ears. Every bullet that hits it is one that doesn't hit me. My shield is an irresistible target, one that gets easier to hit the closer I get. They stop shooting by the time I'm 10 feet away. A healthy fear of ricochets will do it every time. It finally sinks in that their bullets aren't going to stop me. They frantically look about for avenues of escape. There are none. I mow through them like a sift through wheat. I try to use no more force than absolutely necessary. It's only fair. Curiously, 2 of the men involved in this criminal transaction have made no move since I moved in. They didn't shoot at me. They didn't run. Such good judgment is rare among criminals. I frisk the 4 of them and find the 2 passive guys are armed, same as the other 2. In the distance, I hear a siren. My friends must have called the police as I asked. So why don't you just shoot us in the head, flag face? I don't use guns. Not what I heard. The hood must be referring to the incident in Europe, where I was forced to take a terrorist's life. Sometimes I think I'll never be able to put that behind me. What's he referring to, Bob?
Oh, that was his battle against the Flag Smasher in Ultimatum, Rick.
Yeah, that happened, I think 5 or 6 issues ago, right?
Right. Yeah.
I think we covered that way back in episode 10.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was our introduction to the Flag Smasher, which was Captain America 312, and then we did 321 and 322, which is when Cap was forced to make a choice and took a terrorist's life rather than see civilians die. It was a really, really hard, difficult choice that will continue to weigh on him for many, many, many issues. One of the guys that he's frisking says, "You're making one big mistake, Captain." I've heard that before. The police arrive. My work's almost done. Gentlemen, I happened upon this drug deal in the making. In this briefcase are several stacks of $100 bills, and the other is a quantity of cocaine. And the police come up, and one guy's like, yeah, way to go. This law officer seems particularly disinterested. Either he's the most laid-back cop I've ever seen, or there's something more to all of this. Let me tell you something, hero man. 2 of those guys you just did a citizen's bust on are undercover vice officers. They've been trying to get a line on these punks' connection for months now. You just spoiled all their work. I'm sorry, but when I see a crime in progress, any kind of crime, I'm not going to stand idly by. Why don't you do us all a favor and stick to mixing it up with other long underwear types like yourself? Save police work for the professionals. Ouch.
That's a burn. Yeah. And he's not wrong, you know?
I think of 100 different retorts, but none of them would have helped matters. So I just turn and walk off. I usually do try to steer clear of police business, but there was no way anyone could have known this was that. I'm not sure I approve of subsidizing small criminals just to get at bigger ones either. Like I said before, it's getting harder these days to recognize evil. Even I make mistakes sometimes. My destination's a few blocks away, a Brooklyn garage where I used to store my bike back when I lived in the neighborhood. And he walks up to this garage, and coming out, looks like some tough customers, Bob.
These are some tough dudes, right? They look like maybe some biker dudes.
You know what they also look like? And maybe I'm just because I'm thinking of Mike Zeck, but it looks like those G.I. Joe villains, the Marauders or whatever they were called.
Yeah.
Zaran led them.
I don't remember them that thoroughly.
But they wore vests like this. One guy had a mohawk, long hair, beard, glasses. Yeah. It kind of looks like them.
Yeah, funny.
Hey, Cappy. So how'd it go? Didn't go so well, really. The deal you glimpsed going on turned out to be a police undercover operation. I bollocksed by breaking it up. He looks pretty glum, Richie. Aw, gee, Cap. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to give you a bum steer. I know that, Richie. I still appreciate your tip. No way you or anyone could have known. So how's my bike? Got it right here, Cap. Fenders mended and painted, light fixed, a complete tune-up. The works. Great. I really banged it up fighting Whirlwind in North Carolina a few weeks back. Here, I believe this should more than cover the repairs. No, Cap, it's on the house. No, I insist. I know you just want to do your part, but I don't want you to take a loss. Well, actually, we were hoping to get a computer so we could join your hotline guys. In the end, I convinced them to take it. My war against evil may be a solitary one, but it's nice to know I have such staunch supporters as my Brooklyn boys. And then he drives off in the motorcycle, Bob. And you know how you can tell?
Would it be the cloud of carbon monoxide pouring out the back, or the squeak?
Yeah,
Yeah.
he squealed away.
It's not the first time.
All right, next page, top, and we get a close up of the motorcycle.
We do.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool looking motorcycle, and he's got the Captain America helmet from the TV series.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
Love the helmet.
By the time I reached the Brooklyn Bridge, I almost succeed in putting the nostalgia I feel for the borough I used to live in out of my head. It's hard. I spent some of my happiest moments there in Brooklyn Heights with Bernie and the gang on Lehman's Place. But the conflict between my duty to the nation and my need for the semblance of normal life got to be too great. I finally had to drop the trappings of normalcy and give myself fully to my mission. It was difficult, but it was the only choice that this soldier could make. Now my home is both nowhere and everywhere. I wander the back roads of America like a nomad, searching for wrongs to right. A nomad. How's that for a transition?
I know. Nicely
So,
done.
so we cut to this next scene, which takes place with Jack Monroe, aka Nomad. And for those who want to follow along at home, uh, Jack is the 1950s version of Bucky. And he, along with William Burnside, the 1950s version of Captain America, were um, kind of out of commission on suspended animation. And then, they came back, and then the different drugs that they took to kind of give them something similar to the super soldier serum drove them a little crazy. And then we covered the 50s Cap and Bucky back in episode 6, Bob.
Oh my gosh, Rick.
I
I
know.
was like 30 back then. For crying out loud.
I know, right?
Feels like that
And
issue had just come out.
yeah, pretty much. I mean, it was 1972, the story, yeah. But we covered that in episode 6, which is Captain America 153 to 156. So, um, we cut to Jack Monroe, and we have an inner monologue of Jack. Oh, and by the way, when was the last time we saw Jack? Well, it was actually last issue. This kind of set up this current story, but don't worry, there's going to be a nice little recap here. Prior to that, we didn't see him for over a year. It was issue 309 was the last time, and he and Cap kind of parted ways. So they haven't seen each other for a little while here. The moon over Miami doesn't have Jackie Gleason's face on it. In fact, it looks like it's mad at me. That's okay. I'm kind of peeved at myself, too. I've been aboard this ritzy yacht for 3 weeks now, doing my bit as a waiter. And it seems like I'm no closer to accomplishing what I set out to do here than the day I came aboard. The name's Nomad, or at least that's what I began calling myself when I was Captain America's partner. But while he's got the rep, I'm still trying to make mine. That's one of the reasons why I'm here. The other one is, and then his inner monologue thoughts are cut short as he's leaning on the railing in the middle of the night, looking out over this from this yacht, and he's wearing a white suit with a red tie. And there's this woman. How would you describe this woman, Bob?
I would describe her like a Nagel illustration from Playboy magazine from the 1980s. So she's got the blonde, spiky hair, and she's wearing a very revealing long cocktail dress. And she's well endowed.
I don't know. She looks like got a small nose to me.
She's got a bit of yeah, she's got a bit to me anyway. I don't know. She's got a bit of a Bridget Nielsen look going on.
Just
From
not
that
as
time.
tall. Yeah.
Yeah, just not as tall, maybe.
So she comes up to him. Hunk City. Hello, handsome. Want some company? You think that moon is full? You ought to see my. Sorry, ma'am. I work here. We're not allowed to fraternize with the customers. Oh, come on, sweet cheeks. I won't tell if you won't. The woman reeked of expensive perfume and Dom Perignon. She wasn't my type at all. We turned page. Jack goes on to say, my type is more like Priscilla Lyons, the little lady who's the reason why I'm here. And Bob, this is the first appearance of Priscilla Lyons as well. So not only is this the first appearance of the Slug, it's the first appearance of Priscilla Lyons. And who does she end up being, Bob?
Priscilla Lyons. Is she what's her name? Free Spirit?
Starts with a V.
What's her name? I can't remember, Rick.
She's a vagabond.
Vagabond. I'm sorry. Yes, vagabond.
Yeah.
Like a nomad.
Yeah.
But a synonym.
Okay.
What's a
How would you
synonym?
describe her face, Bob?
Well, she's got eyes and a nose. She's got lips with some red lipstick on and some blonde hair styled in a late 80s hairdo. And she's wearing some earrings. So
okay.
Yeah, it's not really, I mean, it's fairly nondescript.
It really is.
You know?
It really is.
So it could have been the woman in the previous scene, but without makeup and a funky hairstyle.
Yeah, could have been. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was only about a month ago. I was cruising through Kentucky when I first laid eyes on her. He was riding a motorcycle and she was hitching.
Yeah.
She was thumbing her way to Florida. Florida sounded like as good a place as any to work on building my crime fighting rep. I stopped for her. She was undaunted by my cool looks and hot bike. She got on. We rode.
Oh my gosh.
She felt great pressed against my back. Eventually, she opened up to me, told me why she was going south. Deep south.
Deep south. Yeah.
That just reminds me of the Saturday Night Live skit, Colonel Angus.
That's a classic.
Oh my goodness, so fun. Seems her brother was in Miami and may have gotten mixed up with some rough customers in the drug trade. I told her rescues were one of my specialties. She was grateful in advance.
Mark.
And so here's the two of them in a lip lock, but she's like she's doing mustache rise right here. I mean,
yeah, that mustache is really selling it.
He's got like the handlebar mustache, right?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. That's great. I went back to look in the previous issue to see what Jack had been up to in that issue, and he's definitely sporting that mustache.
Yeah, in the previous issue. Yeah, I did this. Yeah. Now we go from the two of them kissing, him saying she was grateful in advance, which put my mind in the wrong mindset
Yep.
when I read the following. After some legwork,
So they hit the gym, Rick, right? Is that what you're saying?
I guess that's not what I was thinking.
Leg
But
work?
okay.
It was a leg day?
Yeah. I think it meant detective legwork.
Oh, that makes sense too. Yeah.
I learned her brother Phil was working for Miami's drug kingpin, the Slug. I went undercover to try to do the same. The Slug's man, Rickard, took a liking to me and hired me on, which brings me. And then he then gets interrupted in his thoughts, and he's no longer wearing a white suit. It's now gray for some reason. Um, where this guy comes up and says, "Hey Jack, all hands on deck." Gotcha, Larry. And then he tells him to come inside the cabin. Just so you know, Bob, um, if you want someone to go inside the cabin, you don't say all hands on deck, because the deck is outside the cabin.
Well, Rick, not to burst your bubble,
Uh-oh.
but that is a particular phrase in naval terminology that is not meant to be taken literally. Like get on the deck. You could say hit the deck. That would be literal, like get on the floor, right? But when someone says all hands on deck, that means everybody get your ass in gear. We need you.
All right.
So and that's what he's saying here. He's like saying all hands on deck.
Okay. All right.
It requires everybody to be involved in this.
I can dig it.
Yeah.
You want to describe this next panel, Bob?
Oh, I would love to, Rick.
Okay.
So it is apparently the interior, main cabin of this luxury yacht, and there's a lot going on here. But in the back, we see a raised dais and the Slug, who we talked about on the cover, being a very large man, very much like looking like Jabba the Hutt here.
Really is.
From the Tatooine Palace, right? He's sitting on this dais. And in fact, it looks like there's a couple servant girls behind him in bikinis that are very Princess Leia-like, serving him drinks. And then around in front of him in this very expansive cabin are lots of women in either scantily clad or in very revealing bikinis, and a number of men, talking with them. Far fewer men, by the way, than women. And they're all drinking and carousing. And there's a jacuzzi, hot tub there with several women in the hot tub, and a couple, one of them wrestling with a guy. And so it looks like a very let's just say hedonistic experience going on, bacchanal even. And he's sitting back there just observing the whole thing.
There he was, in all his self-indulgent glory, Ulysses X. Lugman, the Slug. The party deck was in full swing as usual, debauchery on parade. The Slug even had a full-time physician aboard just to give out penicillin shots. What?
Nice. That's nice. That's thoughtful.
Why would you need a penicillin shot, Bob?
I think it's just, good quality healthcare. Yeah.
Clients, employees, racketeers. This is where all of Miami's high-class scum hung out. All of them were reveling in the lucre of a crook who had never been caught. The techno-pop music from the tape deck and the clamor of the crowd died at the same moment as the Slug lifted his stunted arms to signal he was going to speak. His voice came out as a jaded, breathy rasp. May I have your attention, please, my friends? I have a special treat in store for your evening entertainment. Please, evacuate the jacuzzi.
Rick, I've been waiting for the last couple of days to hear you do the Slugman voice, and it was worth the wait.
Yeah?
That raspy voice of yours, breathy, raspy voice. I like it.
Yeah? I didn't practice it. I came up with it right now.
Very nice. Very good. Yeah. Did the job.
All right. And then he snaps his finger, Bob.
Oh, Snap.
No, I like the.
I can't. I got arthritis in my thumb now, Rick, and I can't. I've learned I can't.
I heard it. I heard the first
Did
time
you?
you did it.
I'm gonna do it again. Ready? Hold me.
There. Boys. What the devil is he dumping in there? Minnows? And they have these barrels that they're just dumping in something into the jacuzzi. Eee, those are slugs. Many of you may find my little pets a tad repulsive, but they do the job that is asked of them. And that is more than I can say for one of my men, one of my trusted aides, who is responsible for a bungling of a $5 million deal. Mitch Schaffman, come forward. No. You're going to go for a swim, Mitch. They hog-tied and hoisted him above the hot tub. It wasn't my fault, Mr. Lugman. I swear it. Please? And we turn the page. Schiffman was a cheap lowlife who didn't deserve to lead the high-stepping life he had enjoyed. But as far as I knew, he didn't deserve this kind of torment either. The operation he bungled I was responsible for busting up a couple of weeks ago, though he never found out. Please, Mr. Lugman, please. Guess the wheels of injustice grind slowly, too. Does anyone here believe that Mr. Schiffman should be spared the experience of being dunked into a vat of squirming slugs? Speak up now. No? If I said anything, it would have blown my cover. I needed to keep it a while longer. I joined the silent majority. Very well. Dip him. Ah! What's going on, Bob? Describe it.
So they've got him tied upside down by the ankles, of course, with his hands tied behind his back, and they are slowly dipping him into the jacuzzi that is now filled with hundreds, if not thousands, of squirming slugs.
Again. 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 And the crowd goes wild. Sick creeps, a lot of them. Next page. As soon as I could slip away unobtrusively, I did. The evening's entertainment had really gotten to me, as did the sleazebag spectators. When I first came on board, I thought that it was just the Slug and a few of his right-hand men who deserved to feel the wrath of Nomad. So I kept waiting for the Slug's party to end, so there'd be no innocents around to get hurt. Now I know the party never stops, and there are no innocents here. They will all feel my wrath. All but this guy, Phil, Priscilla's brother. And Jack walks up to Phil, who's having a smoke out on the deck. Mind if I talk to you? You're the new guy, right? Yeah, but I'm also a messenger. I got a message from your sister, Priscilla. She said you should come home. Your dad forgives you, and they're all worried about you. How do you know my sister? Never mind. You tell her, pal, that I like it here. This is where I belong. Good food, good money, good women, good drugs. Where am I going to find a deal this good anywhere else? That spectacle tonight? You'd like that too? I could take it. Every job has its downsides. Let me tell you something, pal. You do anything to jeopardize my job here, and I will blow the whistle on you so fast your ears will fall off. Great. I finally get the guy alone, finally lay my message on him, and he proves himself to be as scum-loving as everyone else around here. So what am I supposed to do? I promised Priscilla I'd save him, but the dude doesn't want to be rescued, and probably doesn't deserve to be. Priscilla, what would you have me do? And we cut to Priscilla, who's it looks like she's in an apartment or home or something like that, and she's curled up on a chair watching a TV. Bob, explain the TV.
Oh, it's definitely an old school 1980s TV, Rick. You know, you got the rabbit ear antennas on the back, and it's about a foot and a half deep. So it means it's got one of those beautiful vacuum cathode ray tubes in there. So it's definitely old school.
Oh, Jack, why haven't I heard from you in 3 weeks? You said you keep in touch, but since going aboard that yacht, maybe something's happened to you. You said the owner of the yacht was really bad. And she looks up Captain America's hotline in the yellow pages. Yes, hello? This is Priscilla Lyons. A friend of mine, the Nomad, has disappeared while helping me find my brother. He once mentioned he was a friend of Captain America. So, cut to the next page, and it's the next day. The plush editorial offices of the Marvel Comics Group are certainly located in a nondescript building near Midtown Manhattan. It's been weeks since I made an appearance there as Steve Rogers, freelance cartoonist. Things changed since I was up there last. Even the editor of the book I draw was new. Hey, I really like your work, Steve, and so does my trusted assistant, Dave. He'll help you if I'm on tour with the band. Thanks, Don. It's great drawing the fictionalized exploits of my alter ego for a living. It's something that fits into my schedule, it pays pretty good, and I never need art reference. So, what's this about you not having a permanent address? Well, I like to travel a lot. Hey, long as you let us know where to send the plots and you get your pages in on time, I can't complain, and neither will my trusted assistant, Dave. Please drop by whenever you're in town. I'll be sure to do that. Good meeting you, Don. And you too, Dave. Uh, so Bob, that's
Rick,
kind of cool, right?
yeah,
Like we've seen before that Cap or Steve Rogers has a job illustrating. We've seen sometimes that he illustrates Captain America comics, which is pretty cool. Here he is in the Marvel Studios with real life editor and assistant editor.
yeah. Does it look like them?
I would imagine
I wonder if you.
close to it.
Yeah, I didn't look up the pictures, so I wonder if these are true to life.
Um, I do find it interesting that the assistant Dave got mentioned many times,
Yeah.
like it was on purpose. And not only was it his assistant Dave, it
Yeah.
was his trusted assistant Dave. He said trusted assistant Dave twice.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Coincidence?
I don't know. Maybe he's friends with the letterer.
Maybe.
So Cap's then in his van, and he's driving over the Brooklyn Bridge, or maybe not. Maybe it's a George Washington Bridge. Anyway, so he's driving away. You know how you can tell he's driving away, Bob?
So it's that cloud of smoke, Rick.
Yeah. My last bit of New York business out of the way, I set out for the open country over the George Washington Bridge in my customized van. My comics work is the only thing I do these days that isn't a direct part of my mission to America. It is the one distraction I allow myself, a terrific way to unwind. The blinking light on my portal message terminal informs me my hotline has received an important message. And what's the message say, Bob?
It says Cap. According to Priscilla Lyons, 305-555-6907. Please don't call that number. Nomad in danger in Miami, Florida area. Call for particulars.
I love the fact that they put a number here. I'm so tempted to call the number because this came out in 1987. So this is like what, 37 years ago this
Mhm.
book came out, right? So whoever has that number hasn't gotten this call in 35 years. And it's maybe a new person at the number and they're going to
Yeah.
have no clue.
Yeah.
Yeah, hi, is Priscilla Lyons there?
We're just returning a call.
Bob, if it was a little earlier in the evening, I would make a call right now on the air.
Oh my
I'm
gosh.
looking up the phone number, Bob.
Look it up. Yeah.
I am looking up the phone number right now as we speak. Of course, it's a 555 number, so I
Yeah,
always
those are always tricky.
wonder about those, right?
Yeah.
I did. I looked up the number, and you know what comes up on Google? Uh, Captain America Epic Collection, Justice is Served.
Huh.
And yeah, it shows up as Nomad in danger in Miami, Florida. Call for particulars.
Oh, wow.
How about that?
How about that?
Yeah.
Google.
So Cap sees the message and thinks to himself, Nomad. This couldn't be yet another fraudulent tip about him, could it? So last issue, the Trapster and Whirlwind set a trap for Captain America by calling the hotline and saying they were Nomad. Cut back to Jack Monroe. He's in his room. It's dark. He has his shirt off. I still hadn't made up my mind what to do about Phil, but I had made up my mind to destroy this rat's nest tonight. I was in my cabin suiting up in the dark when I hear someone at the door. Could be just another drunk or druggie. On the other hand, I was only half dressed and not in my usual valet's garb at that. I position myself so I can see who's coming in while I'm pretending to be asleep. And it's Phil. Hey, Jack, it's me, Phil. Say, I changed my mind about this place. I decided I want to go home. Hmm, that's great, Phil. We can leave tonight. Sure. In the in the dimness, I don't see what he has in his hand, but I suddenly feel it. Ugh! A hypodermic needle, filled with who knows what. He's jammed it straight into my left pectoral. What a jerk I am. I wanted to believe the best of him for Priscilla's sake, so I dropped my guard and let him succor me. My veins feel like I've got lava in them. I tried to get up to my feet, but I feel so so shaky. I try to fight feel like I'm going down a dark. Cut to the next page, and two guys who were with Phil, but they're wearing sunglasses, are carrying the half naked Jack Monroe up the stairs out into the deck. Cute pajamas he's got on, huh? All these servants are a bit fruity, ask me. Surprised this one's still breathing with all that horse in him. What's horse, Bob?
It's apparently heroin, Rick.
Well, Lenny, he's going to be breathing salt water in a second. And they toss him overboard. Hey, you told me you were going to teach him a lesson, not drown him. It's a swimming lesson. Wah, wah.
Wow.
And Jack gets into the water and it makes a loud noise. And then he sinks. Oh, man. I feel like spit. He was one of Prissy's friend, and now he's dead. But I had a rat on him to stay in good with the boss. I had to. You done good, kid. Come on, let's go tell Mr. Lugman how you handled that sneak. I caught a commercial jet in Newark, New Jersey, and arrived in Miami at 10 o'clock last night. I met with Noman's friend Priscilla, who knew enough specifics to convince me she really knew him. She told me what kind of questions do you think he asked?
Hard questions, Rick?
Yeah. Where's his tattoo?
What sort of leg workout does he like?
She told me what she could about the yacht Jack was on, and the rest of the night I spent snooping around. At 9 a.m., I hire a small motorboat, pack some provisions, and set out in search of the Slug character. The information I gathered last night said a ferry goes out to the Slug's yacht twice a day, 11 a.m. and 11 p.m. All I have to do is spot the ferry and follow it to the Slug's yacht. Ha! All. From what I gathered, the Slug is Miami's answer to the Kingpin, the underworld's boss of bosses. Cagey fellow, his ship remains outside of the U.S. territorial limit, so he's technically outside of legal jurisdiction. Seems like good old Jack wasn't wasting his time taking on small potatoes. I knew what the Slug's ferry looked like, but I have to wait for it to sail past me. It would be too conspicuous following it all the way from the shore. While on the lookout, I spy a small dark blue object blobbing in the surf. It may just be some man-made flotsam, but it might also be human. And he speeds the little dinghy boat towards it. I don't believe my luck or his. Jack! Jack Monroe, Nomad, floating in the ocean using his pants as a makeshift flotation device. He doesn't open his eyes or acknowledge me, but his body's still warm and his lips pink, not blue. I check for vital signs and find them. I wrap Jack in a thermal blanket, which I just happen to have on this small dinghy boat, and try to rouse him.
Part of his provisions, Rick.
Ah, yeah. Yeah, bring a thermal blanket.
You never know.
Oh, Steve, take it easy, pal. You're okay. Can I get you something to eat or drink? Hungry. Here, I have plenty. All right. Gonna have to disagree with Mark Gruenwald here.
Okay.
So, he has been overboard overnight
Mm-hmm.
out in the middle of the ocean.
Okay.
I specifically remember being asked this question when I was in probably fourth, fifth, maybe sixth grade. I don't know. And the teacher asked out and said, "Oh, we were doing a story, and it was one of those composition things you had to like think through, whatever." And it was about somebody who was a castaway,
Uh-huh.
and they get rescued.
Uh-huh.
And there are three things that what is going on with this person: hungry, thirsty, tired.
Mm.
Which one of the three do you think needs to be addressed first? And so there was a lot of debate.
Mm.
Like, oh, well, they must be really hungry. Oh, they got to be tired, exhausted from all this, or they got to be thirsty, dehydrated or whatever. If we knew big words like that back then,
Yeah.
I was the only one who got it right.
Thirsty.
Thirsty.
Yeah.
That is the first thing you have to address. The
Yeah.
teacher was like, "Good answer."
Yeah.
And come on, he's hungry over thirsty.
Well,
Mark.
maybe he's just hungry. Rick, how long has he been overboard anyway? Was it? Does it say? Like, I
Yeah,
thought
it
it was
does.
overnight or something. He's been out there for days.
So what happened to you?
8 hours.
What are you doing floating 3 miles off the Florida coast? Guy I was trying to save shafted me, shot me full of drugs. Heroin, I think. Dumped me overboard, don't know how, but I had the
What?
presence of mind to pull off my pants, knot the cuffs, and throw them over my head to scoop up some air. That was late last night. What time is it now? About 11. I've been afloat for almost 8 hours.
Well, there you go, Rick. It was the heroin. I gave him the munchies.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't do heroin, Bob, but thank you for the inside baseball on heroin,
He's
what
not
happens.
thirsty. He's hungry. He's got the munchies, dude.
Oh, okay. The super soldier formula in you must have helped your body fight the effects of the drugs. I had a similar experience myself once. So, what the heck are you doing here, Steve? Not that I'm ungrateful. Your friend Priscilla called me in. She did? Huh. What a great kid. She really must have been worried about me. Well, great. Since you're here, you can help me mop up the slug. I wanted to get Jack to shore, have him checked out to see if he was really okay, but he wouldn't hear of it. He wanted to waste no time going back to rescue the guy who betrayed him, Priscilla's brother. Rescue the guy.
Yeah.
So we wait, spending the day fishing and catching up on what the other had been up to since we parted company a few months ago. I guess along with the provisions was they brought 2 fishing rods and bait. Something about Jack has changed. There's a bit of a harder edge to him than when he was my eager to please partner. Finally, at dusk, Jack spots the slug's ferry making its evening trip, and we silently follow it. Cap's a great guy. In fact, he's the greatest guy I'd ever met. Somehow, with him at your side, you'd have the guts to storm the gates of HE double hockey sticks itself. Okay.
Jack.
Jack's fine with killing,
Yeah.
but he doesn't swear.
Yeah, and advance payments apparently from women he's helping.
I wonder if she's loose.
Yeah.
Remember that line?
Yes, I remember that line.
But I know that his idea of justice is just a little more liberal than mine. Interesting.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Jack wants to kill someone.
Yeah.
Cap doesn't kill. That in Jack's mind, that makes Cap more liberal.
Yeah.
I would think that would make Cap more conservative.
Yeah, interesting. Well, I guess Jack goes in for the eye for an eye sort of mentality, and thinks Cap doesn't, which is true.
So they climb on board in the back in the middle of the night. If he knew what I intended to do to the slug, he'd probably try to stop me. That's why I'll have to arrange things so Cap's not there when I do it. This is your show, Nomad. What should we do next? You wait here. I want to go down to my cabin and recover the rest of my gear. Be back in a few minutes. Then we can go teach the slug some respect for the law. Stay out of trouble, Cap. Cute. Jack speaking to me like I used to speak to him. Then I hear someone coming. The slug's party guests from the sound of them. And Cap hangs off over the side to be out of view. Next page, we cut to Jack putting on his uniform. They tossed out the rest of my belongings, but they overlooked the nomad costume I hid under the bunk. All suited up for the first time in 3 weeks. Feels great. I feel all hyped up, ready to really whip some butt. Cap's waiting for me to reappear on the deck, but I have some business below. Business I don't want him in on. And he busts through this galley doors. All of you, against the far wall. Move! Sacre bleu. What? And basically he's gone to a kitchen. And somebody's, cooking some steaks on the grill. And so they all kind of go up against the wall. Don't budge an inch. Don't turn around. And none of you will get hurt. First, I round up all the fire extinguishers and toss them out a porthole. Henri, what's he doing? Looks like you boys were getting a head start on the breakfast pastries. I got news for you. Breakfast is canceled, and so is the cruise. Thanks for your cooperation, boys. Now get out of here, quick. And he tosses what's in a pot onto the burning stove, and it catches fire, Bob. He started a grease fire. Next page. I no sooner decide to see what's keeping Jack when some men in cook's outfits come running out of the stairs, followed up by thick plumes of smoke. Fire! Fire! Once they're by, I go below, following the smoke. I trace it to its source, the galley. What happened here? And where is Nomad? The wall of the smoke alarm cuts off the music piped through the ship's loudspeakers the instant I'm at the main door to the Slug's party hall. Great timing. And he busts through the door, and there's the Slug and all his guests. Okay, Slug, you and all your slugettes are gonna fry. I think that got their attention. The Slug's right-hand goons, the guys who probably tossed me into the drink, go for their pieces. I go for my stun discs. I'm faster. What are his stun discs, Bob?
They're little circular, basically frisbees, Rick. They're attached to the front of his uniform, and he can chuck them off, much like Cap's shield. And they have concussive effects.
I can recover them later. I won't need them to deal with the Slug. Okay, fat man, now it's just between you and me. The crowd parts like the Red Sea, leaving Sluggo all by his lonesome. Wait, all of you, you must help me. His cries for help sound like the bleating of a sheep. They go ignored. Then Priscilla's brother comes leaping out from behind a curtain toward me. Don't worry, Mr. Lugman, I'll help you. Looks like he really wants to get in good with his boss. Starry-eyed jerks shouldn't mess with professionals. I go easy on him out of respect for Priscilla. All the time I spent here on the yacht, I never saw the Slug move from his throne of pillows. He even had a toilet brought to him. Guess I shouldn't have assumed that he can't move, just that he was too lazy to. And sure enough, Bob, what's going on?
Well, as Nomad goes to attack him, Slugman starts to move, and all the pillows that had formed this sort of raised dais around him fall away, revealing a mobile little carrier that he sits on with basically tank treads. I'm still quite honest. I'm just still a little stunned at the revelation that he had a toilet brought to him.
Why did you make me think about that?
I'm like, I had this view of that party scene and that, the jacuzzi and everything. And then, yeah.
Oh, no, you don't. I land on one of his many rolls of flab, digging my heels in deep. Then I start laying into that dome mass he calls a face. Somewhere the man's got to have bones. I intend to find them. Oh! And then we cut to the next panel, and there's a smaller boat up against the yacht, and there's a ladder going down to it so people can vacate the yacht, which is on fire, to get onto the safer boat. But Cap's there, keeping everything orderly. What gives you the right to tell us who gets to go first? Where the devil is Nomad? I could use some help boarding the panicky passengers into the ferry in some semblance of order. You know the rules, gents. Women and children first. Acting like children won't make you qualify. Says you. Come on, Sid. He can't stop us all. Hope you can swim. And he knocks one into the water. We ain't burning up on account of no flag waving fascist. No one's burning up if I can help it. I'm simply asking you to wait your turn. Ow! Now stay in line. Soon, all of the women are boarded, and I let the men start boarding. The troublemakers last. The moment the evacuation's finished, I head below deck searching for Nomad. The fire is spreading fast. Once it reaches the engine room, the ship blows. I finally find Nomad. He's pounding away at the fattest man I've ever seen in my life. The Slug, I presume. You're slime, filth. You think you can get away living outside the law? Not with me around. And it looks basically like the cover of the way Jack's on top of him and just pummeling him. Nomad, the ship's on fire. What are you still doing down here? Cap, I'm just giving the Slug what's coming to him. No time for that. The fire will reach the boiler soon. We've got to get him and ourselves out of here. Uh-uh. If ever a man deserved to go down with the ship, it's the Slug. We are not the law, Nomad. We cannot judge who deserves to live or die. Come on, Cap. You told me how you took the life of that terrorist. The Slug is at least as bad as that guy was. Take my word for it. He deserves to die. The law can't touch him. Only we can. Besides, this guy would take up a lifeboat all by himself. He's just plain not worth the effort of saving. Nomad, I'm not going to ask you again. Help me remove this man to safety. Disobeying Cap may make him lose all respect for me. And deep down, I want his approval more than anybody's. But I'll be flogged before I help that slimy Slug. Sorry, Cap, but I knocked out a few guys who are probably still down here. I choose to save them first. Nomad! Nomad's decision angers me, but I guess I have to respect him for it. If there is more than one life at stake here, it's our responsibility to see as many as possible. The only problem is, moving this monster of a man upstairs may be more than I can handle by myself. Mister, if you know of any shortcut out of here, I'd recommend through there. Getting off a burning ship is just the first problem. What will we do once we're off? The ferry was filled to overflowing, and the boat Nomad and I came on would sink if a man half the Slug side step on. Cut to the next page, and it's Nomad. The smoke's as thick as cotton candy, and the color of coal. Hard to see, hard to breathe. The heat's worse than a sauna. I can't find Priscilla's brother where I dropped him. Guess he made it out. I do stumble across the Slug's goons. I think for about half a second if I should haul them to safety, and decide against it. What Cap doesn't know? he won't hold against me. Up on the top deck, I see the ferry takes off without us. Looks like they found Cap's motorboat and filled that too. What a shame. A lot of them could all drown and I wouldn't shed a tear. I better go see what's keeping Cap, but there's a huge explosion, Bob. Oh, I don't even know what hit me at first. When I hit the surf again, I figure it out. The fire reached the engine. The boat blew. But where's Cap? I swim so hard it feels like my arms are going to come off. Cap's the toughest guy around. Surely he was thrown free like I was. But if he was still below deck, near the engine? Come on, Cap, where are you? I circled the boat 3 times, thinking I could see Cap's head thrust out of the water, only to find it's just some junk from the ship. I swim around the whole blasted thing again. Still no sign of him. Maybe he is still aboard, blown up trying to free that fat vermin from the ship all by himself. Cap! Salt water begins to sting my eyes. Hard to see. I've got to try to climb aboard the burning. And then just at that moment, Cap surfaces and he has a loud gulp of air. Cap! Cap, what happened? The Slug had his own escape hatch and lifeboat. Just as we got to it, the ship went up, taking the lifeboat with it. I've been diving, trying to find the Slug ever since. He was strapped into a heavy-duty wheelchair and must have sunk like a stone. It's no use. They took our boat, Cap. You up to swimming 5 miles back to shore? Looks like I have to be. Say, Nomad, any idea how the fire started? Nope. And then on the last panel, the Slug surfaces like a big giant raft. And he gasps for air. The end, Bob.
The end, Rick. Yes. What an adventure.
Indeed. Overall thoughts?
It was a good story. Why not? I like the way that it juxtaposed, contrasted, Steve Rogers' ethics and morality against those of Jack Monroe. I think that's interesting. Always interesting to see. Quite a bit of a speechifying there at the beginning by Cap.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of that in this issue from Mark Gruenwald. So that was kind of interesting, a bit heavy-handed at times, quite honestly. But overall, I mean, it's a good story. Good story.
Yeah. All right. I also liked the fact that Jack Monroe had an inner monologue, and made it a little easier for me because their inner monologues tended to describe everything that was going on. So
Yeah.
I didn't have to do a whole lot of that. But it was interesting to hear the inner monologue of Jack. So you got to really get an idea for how he, what was going through his head. And honestly, I think if I go back and I remember the first time I read this, I do feel like this and maybe the previous issue was the first time we saw Jack Monroe turn to this darker, edgier character.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, ultimately, what ends up happening is, we know about, he comes back in issue 336, which is part of the captain storyline, right? Which we covered, which was, went all the way up to 350. And if you remember, Jack Monroe during that time was a bit of a jerk.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he was really rude to D-Man.
Didn't like D-Man at all.
Yeah. And he just had
and jealous.
He kind of edge about him.
Yeah.
Then and this was, during basically the end of 87 through 1988. Then he was in Captain America's Annual #9. And then in 1990, he gets his own miniseries. It was a 4-issue miniseries. And then and that's where he becomes more of like a Punisher type figure. Then he was in Captain America Annual 10. And then he came back and he had his ongoing series in 1992. And that actually lasted a lot longer than you would think.
Yeah.
I want to say, I think it ended with issue 25. And then he went on to have a pretty long stint within the Thunderbolts as well. But anyway, yeah. So it was interesting to see this version of Jack Monroe, who we had not seen before.
Mhm.
I go first, Bob.
All right.
So my favorite panel is page 5, and that is this one where he's wearing the the Captain America TV movie helmet on the
Yes.
motorcycle. I like the way it's drawn. I like the detail to the motorcycle, and I like all the inner monologue that's going on in there too. So
Yeah.
between Cap doing this cross like cross country type motorcycle thing where he's a nomad and talking about it.
Yeah.
I like that panel.
Yeah, that was my first choice, Rick.
Oh,
So yeah,
I
yeah,
stole that from
you
you.
stole that from me. Yeah, one of the interesting things is, as I was reading this, I was like, dang, I can't believe Elliot R. Brown passed up an opportunity to do a schematic of that helmet. Just think of all of the wonderful wizardry that could have been in that helmet. But that was never really fully explored. But that would have been neat. I would have liked to have loved to have seen like a breakaway cross section of that helmet, and maybe there was some sensors, some heads up display, something like that on the inside. Communications.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea.
So.
All right, Bob. What about you? What's your favorite
Well,
panel?
I'm going to have to go then with my backup, which was that party scene on Slugman's yacht. And not for the reason you think, although I wouldn't blame you for thinking it. Not because of all the ladies in their bikinis, but simply because everything, all the detail in this scene, from the drinks on the platters to what's going on in the background. And I mean, there's a lot of detail rendered in this particular scene that really makes it clear that this is like a very hedonistic, as described in the narration. It's a very hedonistic scene with lots going on, like you might expect to find on a drug dealer's yacht in open waters outside of the U.S. territorial zone. And so I, for that purpose alone, for the level of detail and the thought that went into this, I'm going to go with that panel.
Like it. I like it. Very nice. What's going on your t-shirt?
Well, I'm going to go with I think it's page 2, Rick, and it's that second panel that shows Cap's head behind his shield, with all of the bullets ricocheting off the shield. So I'd love it better if it was a little more, had a little more of Cap revealed in that panel. That would be much better on a t-shirt. But in any case, I'll go with it. I'll go with just that panel across the t-shirt.
Well, that was my backup if you had taken what I want to put on a t-shirt. So I like that one. Good job.
All right. What do you got?
Mine's going back to where you have that hedonistic panel that you said you liked.
Yeah.
But I'm going right above that to where the lip lock. I like that whole panel because it says, I told her rescues were one of my specialties. She was grateful in advance. I want that whole part just right here on my chest.
Yeah.
With the handlebar mustache and everything.
Yeah. I'd like to see you in that handlebar mustache. How about your time capsule, Rick? What do you got going on there?
There were a few good ones. I almost went with the techno pop music from the tape deck reference. I almost went with that, but I decided to go with the yellow pages. I go with the yellow pages where Captain America's hotline, and she has her finger over it. We don't see the full ad. We just see a picture of Cap's face. It's Captain America's hotline, 555 CAPT. but we don't know where the area code is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
But anyway, that's
Point.
we don't see the yellow pages much anymore.
No. No.
Certainly not in a comic.
Yeah.
What about
People
you?
be like, what the heck is that? I'm going to go with just the overall vibe, Rick, of the book, particularly the hairstyles, the clothing, the attire, the fact that it's in Miami, even the dockside scene in Miami has that whole Miami Vice feel to it. Remember Miami Vice, the
How
TV
can I
show?
not? Crockett and Tubbs.
Crockett and Tubbs ran from 1984 to 1989. So this book came out smack dab in the middle of that time frame.
Smack dab.
Yeah, it was a real pop culture influence. I had my unconstructed sport coats in various pastel colors, my thin ties. I had that whole thing going on.
Me too.
From merry-go-round and Chess King.
with you can rolled up the sleeves on the sport coats, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It had to, right? The parachute pants, even like Steve's attire, like when he's riding the boat out to
little cuffs around the bottom of the pants.
Yeah, he's got that whole look going on. So those were long gone days, but that was a great show, and it really did have an impact. The music.
It wasn't a great show.
Yeah, I love that show. Loved it. So
I had the soundtrack on cassette tape.
On cassette tape, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It starts off with the Miami Vice theme.
Yeah.
And it's got Smuggler's Blues and Phil Collins in the Air Tonight.
Oh man. And I was I took we had of course a cable television station in our high school. It was all part of the deal when cable television came to our community. They had to build a recording studio, and we had a van, we had a studio. We would go out and I took television production in high school.
Me too.
Did you? We had to go out and we had to do the girls volleyball game and the town council meeting and all that sort of stuff. But we used to do lip sync videos, high production value, lip sync videos. And a friend of mine was a big Phil Collins fan. So In the Air Tonight was like his specialty. So, it was at that time, right? It had the sport coat, the unconstructed sport coat, the sunglasses. Yeah. I was in the control room doing all the effects. What's the machine for effects? Do you remember? I can't remember the name of it. I think they still use it. But
I can't remember the name of it. But there were two of them next to each other, right? And they had the big dials and
right. You can do all kinds of wavy backgrounds and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, we used to do a lot of. We had a homeroom show, every morning.
Yeah,
and then we used to do a lot of like skits. And we would write and act and direct and do all the skits, and we would play those during the homeroom show. I was the guy who I think my junior year in high school, I was the theater critic. And I would watch movies, and then I would come and give my 4 or 5 stars for Ruthless People.
Do you have any of those?
I do.
Do you really?
I have it on VH tape, and I think I've shown my kids.
Yeah. Rick, I'm not much into acting anymore, but there was a time at that point when we made some pretty serious 8mm movies.
Oh, really?
And I only have one surviving one. But I was just looking at it the other day.
All the rest were burned.
Well, they were. We lent them to a friend and he lost them. And there was only one surviving one that hadn't been loaned out, Delta Force. Yeah. So it's a piece of work. I have some great lines in that movie. Plus a really compelling death scene.
Oh man, I wish I knew this when we were casting for next episode. For episode 200.
Something else.
All right, listeners, I can't tell you enough. Make sure you come back. It is going to blow what I do out of the water with my multiple voices. It's a lot of fun. We'll have we have men and women, and on the show we're going to have actual sound effects. Thanks to Bob.
I know. Yeah. Not the boom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's going to be a lot of fun. All right. Bob, as always, it's been fun wrapping cap with you.
It has. Can't wait till next week.
Yeah. I'm Rick Verbonis. He's Bob Lucius. And you, if you don't mind, please rate, review, subscribe wherever you listen. If you're on YouTube right now, please give us a thumbs up. Please leave comments. We'd love seeing your comments, whether on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, or even in the Facebook group. And as always, we thank you for listening to another episode of the Captain America Comic Book Fans Podcast.